Welcome to the Soul Matrix, where all souls come together to remember who we are and why we are here. Collectively, we will recreate a new world. Good evening, everyone. This is Pauline Esposito, and thanks for joining us.
Hello, everybody. This is Wendy Shulman. So I want to wish you all a happy 4th of July. I'm sure you're getting ready for that. And tonight is our third show on the topic of karma. And we have a special guest coming up, Lorelynn Cardo, which we're going to introduce to you in a few minutes. But just a quick reminder that the Soul Matrix airs once a month on the first Wednesday of each month from 7 to 8 p.m. And we'll be taking calls in about half an hour at 310-982-4166. And also stay tuned for the tip of the day and the end of the show meditation. Okay, Pauline, in keeping with our topic of karma be gone and breaking the tentacles of karma, who is our guest tonight?
Well, we have a wonderful guest tonight, Lorelynn Mirage Cardo, Ph.D. She's a counselor, a college professor, and an energy psychologist. And she's the director of Arise Counseling and Energetics. That is where she works. That's her own foundation. She's worked for over 30 years as a counselor and educator and a pioneer in the field of energy psychology, counseling, and education. She's a published writer, speaker, and researcher of holistic methods of learning. She received her doctorate from Fordham University, and she's a trained Reiki master, Karuna master, and integrated etheric healer. And she brings these methods to her work with clients. She has created a major unique system of counseling, which she describes as quantum counseling, soul-based perspectives. And she's also a language of light healing master.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I want to go see her right now. So let's not waste
I'm going to go too.
Let's not waste a minute and bring Lorelynn in right now.
That's great. Lorelynn, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hello. Hello, Wendy. Hello, Pauline.
Hi, Lorelynn.
Hi, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for inviting me. So excited to be on your show.
Well, we love your enthusiasm. You've been wonderful to work with leading up to this show.
Thank you.
Yes, we love your enthusiasm. So, Lorelynn, we've been talking about karma in the last few shows, and karma be gone and how it can be gone, and we've had some really interesting perceptions and how it can be gone. And in this show, I know we're going to be talking about world karma and perhaps where mankind is headed and how to heal areas where a lot of destruction has occurred, and we're going to talk about ancestral karma and patterns that have been inherited and how to release that. So we've got a big show with you this evening.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. So I'm going to get right to it, okay?
Okay, great.
Good. So on the East Coast here, as everyone knows, we've had many devastating events here, starting with 9/11 in 2001. We've had series of hurricanes that have hit the South. We've had mass shootings. So these tragedies can also be considered sort of karmic occurrences. We know they're not good happenings or occurrences, and yet they happen as they propel us to open our hearts and unify as a people. We also talked about soul agreements between two or more people and how that plays a role in the karmic unfolding of these events. So my question to you is, from your perception and expertise, tell us how soul groups are fulfilling their karmic agreements or healing it on a larger scale through these horrible events.
Oh, such an important question, Pauline. I loved at the beginning of your show where you talked about remembering who we are and why we're here. And that always informs my perception and my vision of working with people, because truly, who are we and why are we here and what is the nature of our reality? So if we think we are individual people living in a very tumultuous time, reeling from one negative occurrence to another that we see magnified on the screens all around us, then that's one perception. If we can see ourselves as magnificent beings of love and light, eternal, powerful, who choose on a soul level to come and individually do work, and then mostly we're working with soul families and we're working with larger groups. Right now we're seeing a lot of larger groups working together to really bring the evolution, let's say the evolution of life on planet Earth forward. So when we're looking at these very sad, unbelievable times that seem to be occurring so fast right now, and it is, things have been speeding up. Everybody talks about how time seems to be speeding up and these occurrences are speeding up. And yet, is there an underlying rhythm that on a soul level, on a contractual level, let's say, that larger groups of people are stepping forward and knowing that this is the time that we can use some of this to bring a sense of compassion, to bring a sense of understanding and awareness, even something as simple as what happens to the animals during these times of mass confusion. I mean, normally you wouldn't even necessarily perhaps think of that, but when we see pictures of the animals, and that's the least of maybe what's going on, but it opens up our hearts, and so there's a sense of a destiny path that not only individuals and families, but groups are signing on to fulfill.
That's very interesting, and I'm with you on that. And you had mentioned something to us about sort of where we are in this area on the east as being sort of a power point or a porthole of many converging energies. Talk to people about that.
Well, there are what's known as ley lines on the Earth, and they're like grid lines, let's say, of where there are power points that do intersect. And so those are some of the most powerful places on the planet. Of course, New York City, one of the most powerful places on the planet. So you're looking at portals of energy that draw within themselves the energy, and then people are drawn to come and work there. So when you have occurrences happen, such as the World Trade, for example, well, the whole world stops. The whole world stops and catches its breath and grieves and mourns. And whereas, yes, when things happen around the world, sometimes it's a blip. Sometimes we don't even hear about it. Other times it stays for a little bit, but not the way something that would happen in the major areas like New York. Absolutely, a power portal.
You're right, Lorelynn, you're right, because New York is such a spotlight for the rest of the world. So anything that happens in New York becomes instant news. And not just New York, these major cities that you're talking about, these major power centers. But I just wanted to go back to something you said. It's true, in these darker times, it brings out so much goodness in people. I was speaking to somebody recently, and I said, there's so much darkness going on right now. And he said, yeah, but in the darkest times are the brightest souls. And I said, that's true. You're right. That so much comes out of it.
Well, it's a beautiful quote that I love. And I think it's from Kabir or Tagore, who sometimes translates Kabir. And I saw this quote when I was working in New York, and I put it on my wall in Hunter College when I worked there because that quote still lives with me. And the quote is, "Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark."
Oh,
and so
beautiful.
We say sometimes that there's a dark time, but the dawning is coming, and perhaps the light is not yet there, but you know yourself, if you can be so wonderful to live with these birds who start chirping when it's dark, because they're feeling the light. And there are so many people right now, and more, who are feeling the light, and we're singing. We're singing the song that the light is here, even though it still seems dark. In so many ways, in so many places, yet the dawn is coming and we feel it.
Well, actually, that leads me to my next question. So in these areas where something has happened, like 9/11 in downtown New York City or in New Orleans or the Boston Marathon, how do we heal that negative karma or the energy in that area where such mass destruction has occurred?
I'm from New York. Right now I'm sitting here in wonderful sunny Oregon, but I've lived most of my life in New York City. I was born in Queens, and I grew up in Queens. I've lived in Long Island, the Bronx, but Mostly I'm a Queens girl and worked in Manhattan most of my life. And when 9/11 happened, it struck my family here so hard because I worked right near the World Trade, and my husband worked right near the World Trade, and we've known friends who work there in the World Trade. So it was so unbelievably wrenching to sit and watch the news on TV and hear the calls from families and friends. And we sat there for hours and hours at a time. And if you have energy work, if you know energy work, my goodness, to just sit, my hands were hot for hours and hours. I would just put my hands up and send Reiki to these situations. The same thing with the bombings, the same thing with, as we said, it's such a nexus point for so much happening in the East Coast. So energy workers, absolutely, we don't have to feel helpless or hopeless. We are trained in methods to work and to send healing energies through time and through space. And many people wish to become a healer and energy worker, and there are so many wonderful ways of doing that. I will tell you, since another method, which is a time-honored method, we've gone to visit, because we come back to New York about every year to visit family, and we have been to Ground Zero since, a year or two afterwards, and we always go to visit. In fact, we just got back last month, and we saw these beautiful new tower that's magnificent that's going up. But in those beginning, we just saw, which surprised me. First of all, it surprised me to see the downtown area look so different without the buildings there, and you could see clear to the water. But secondly, how it seemed just millions of people for a couple of years just converged on that site and walked around it, put wreaths and said prayers, and held light, maybe cried. Maybe we're shaken to their roots, but maybe we do need to be shaken to our roots for numbers of reasons, that we can't just allow life to go on, that this is a very special time, an important time, and a time that we all can make a difference.
So you would call those souls in service then, right?
Yes, that's what so it's, getting back to the topic of karma, which is a kind of a fascinating topic, karma, which drives the engine of life on planet Earth for most people most of the time. But now you also have such a larger group of people who are incarnating or perhaps waking up to the fact that, boy, there's more to me and more to my life that I can do rather than just work, take care of my family, come home and go to bed and get up and start it again. That really they're souls in service. They're really here to do work, to help at this wonderful pivoting point of history where the dawn is breaking into a different age, where we are really taking evolution of consciousness much further. And so you have people who are here vibrating at a higher frequency, let's say, than earth-based life karmic lessons. A woman who lives in Long Island, her name is Julie. She's pioneering a woman and has brought a lot of this information forward about souls in service and has magnificent insight into this group of people. And probably if you're listening to this show, then you are a soul in service. You're vibrating at a higher frequency. And even if you do nothing in your life, you think, except be here and breathe and walk and vibrate at a higher frequency, then you are changing life on planet Earth, and you are bringing healing and higher consciousness, whether you're aware of it or not. It's much more fun to be aware of it and to be consciously part of the process and really enjoy the process. And that gets back to stepping forward into your gifts and becoming a healer and becoming a light worker and becoming more conscious at it.
So, Lorelynn, so you're saying that just by raising our vibrations and the collective consciousness of positive energy, and just by people thinking these positive thoughts and taking action in that way, that alone is raising the vibration, that can heal the energy and change the karma?
Well, I'm saying that the actual vibrations themselves change it. Not the thoughts carry vibrations, but sometimes, and Esther Hicks Abraham, a wonderful, magnificent, The Secrets Behind the Secret, gives so much very important information about vibrational set points, because we can say, I wish, I'm thinking of something positive, I'm thinking that we'll have peace on earth, but maybe inside you're really feeling frightened that how can we do it? How can there be an end of violence? How can we have gun control in this country? How can our children be safe? And you're really vibrating more fear, even though you might be saying or thinking. So it's more a vibrational set point, they call it, which I love that. It's really what is your main focus when you really look at yourself and feel really, what are you really feeling? And so souls in service are those who are able to, even though, perhaps because most people in service can be much more sensitive and sensitive to surroundings, and without enough programs such as yours who are reaching out to people who need to hear this message, such an important, the Soul Matrix message, so magnificent and important of a message that you both are doing. More people who are souls in service need to hear it. Some people say, especially the younger ones who are here, the millennial generation, but I think all of us who are souls in service, we're so sensitive to the pain that we feel all around us. We're not as easily buffered from it or anesthetized to it, perhaps. And so to be able to clear out some of our fear and then hold our magnificent vision of moving forward, of hope, of compassion, that there could be peace on this earth, that children can be fed, that there could be an end of violence. So many wonderful visions. We don't hear about those in the media, and we don't see it on TV shows, movies, books. I mean, it's really left to people like yourself to get this message out.
It's true, but you know what? It's coming out more and more. I mean, it surprises me how much. I mean, so many pockets of people doing the light work and people, really getting that message out. I find it so comforting and such a confirmation that there's been a paradigm shift and we headed in the right direction.
Absolutely. It seems like that more and more are coming on board, and that's absolutely true. Cryon, who's great, I love Cryon. He's channeled by Lee Carroll, his angelic entity. He says we don't even need a matching number. I have no way of verifying this, but he said we only need 0.5% of people to really hold this vision. So if we're looking at 7 billion people on this earth, then 0.5% of us. And there's more and more coming who really are understanding that we don't have to go to such a dystopic view. We don't have to go down the path of war and famine and fear of everything happening on earth. We really can hold forth and hold our tones of love and compassion and light and allow that to move forward.
Well, I'm with you totally. I wholeheartedly agree. And I do think that it starts with the self. Mm-hmm. As you said, we can have a thought about wanting peace and wanting healing, but it also has to resonate deep within us. It has to be almost more than a thought. We have to sort of hold that energy and that space within ourselves.
Yeah,
we have to kind of be it within ourselves.
And then so here's the physics part, which is fun. None of us, I don't think I've ever been around or I've seen a room of clocks, those old pendulum clocks, but I've read so many reports that when the clockmaker would go home at night, even though they were all ticking in different ways, when he'd come back in the morning, they'd all be resonating together because they'd each start resonating one with each other and they'd be in sync. And so now we're getting back to enough joining together and then becoming in sync with that message rather than being alone with the message in the midst of perhaps dysfunction and pain and sorrow, holding it in that environment, which is magnificent, that's lighthouse work, but then to be able to join with others and become in sync with others, now the resonance is much larger. The wave, let's say, is able to go much further and reach around the world.
Well, that's why we called our show The Soul Matrix, because we are a matrix of energy, and the more light that we bring in, the brighter the matrix becomes.
Exactly.
Yes. So I know you used to live in New York. You mentioned that, and I'm very curious for you to tell people what your perception is now of the energy in New York since 9/11.
Well, I left New York in 1996. And at that time, as I said, I was commuting to New York at Manhattan. It took me an hour and 20 minutes one way to go. Everybody here in Oregon laughs when I tell them that story. And it was a pretty hard commute. And as an energy worker and someone and counselor for many, many years, I really was feeling the energy in New York was very dense for me, very hard for me to wade my way through and to hold my light enough. So we moved here to Oregon, which, goodness, I had to ask my husband for a map. Where are we going? I didn't know where the Pacific Northwest was. And so much lighter energy here for me. But since we've gone back after 9/11, I've noticed such a magnificent shift in energy there. The energy is
I
so much.
think New Yorkers are going to be very happy to hear that.
I sometimes because we go back almost every year, and I keep saying, why did we leave again? What were we saying?
Oh,
but
that's a nice thing to hear, don't you think, Wendy? Isn't that just a nice thing to hear?
Time to come back, Lorelynn.
I know. I come back every once or twice a year, but my goodness, the light that's there now is magnificent. So again, it's something so horrific and unbearable, and yet perhaps there was a scouring, perhaps there was some type of karmic. I mean, there's all types of understandings around it, but if we're looking at it from a soul matrix perspective, then at least as an energy worker, I know very clearly that it has somehow released some very deep blood energies or dark energies, painful energies, and the lightness and the amount of compassion and just the shift and the whole lay of the land there. It's magnificent. It's magnificent to see, looking back now, 11 years or so, 11, 12 years, what a difference that's made.
Well,
so congratulations, light workers. Doing great work over there.
Yeah. Well, I say there should be a Reiki master, a Reiki healer in every household.
Oh, absolutely.
I think everybody should learn it.
I mean, now Reiki is really around the world since, really people have been letting go of the $10,000 Reiki master price tag, and more people have stepped forward. Reiki 1 and 2, I would say, is around every continent. I hear from people from all over the world, from every continent. They find me thanks to Facebook and thanks to the web.
Yes.
Reiki masters, though, not as much. So people somehow feel I don't want to teach it, or maybe I'm not good enough. And I always love to tell people you don't have to teach it. Reiki Master is not about only teaching. Reiki Master is, again, holding the vibration of a master, not the master, but a master soul. And if you have Reiki,
raising your own vibration, even just raising your own, raising it and really standing as a master in the world as you do the dishes, standing in the master of the world as you're in a car. Not accident, but you're waiting, and rather than just allowing yourself to go to a road rage or a phobic condition, instead, how would a master sit here in this condition? And so you're just being able to hold the vibration of master throughout everything in your life. Yeah. I have attuned quite a few Reiki masters. I will proudly say that I'm making my own contribution in attuning Reiki masters in the world, and they are going out and teaching people. So it's
wonderful.
Good to see. Yeah, it's good.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So we actually have a caller on the line, Mary. Mary, are you there? She has a comment on healing karmic and negative energy in an area where destruction occurs. Mary?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to talk to you all.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm actually calling you from the Jersey Shore, which is part of the shore that's been restored after Hurricane Sandy, Ocean City, New Jersey. So, I could really connect with what you were talking about, Lorelynn, with the world focusing so much on New York City, and it happened again here with Sandy, but there's so much prayer energy from all around the world, all focused, and we're amplifying the light within the matrix. And there's so much community coming together. And I think another thing that happened is people really drop into their hearts when we observe a crisis or a tragedy, especially one of epic proportions. And so there's a dropping from the mind into the heart. And when we're in our hearts more fully, so much more vibrance is going into that matrix that we're increasing the frequency of love and well-being, not only for the area that's affected, but because that area is part of the collective. We put that into the collective. So,
beautiful.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Mary. And it's almost sometimes for me, because I work with individuals a lot in terms of their own personal healing. So sometimes somebody gets, let's say, a diagnosis of a heart disease, or even they have to go for chemo or something from the medical community that is very hard to work with. I'm not going to, and there's so much we could talk about that as well, but one part of it, which reminds me of what you said about the Jersey Shore and the pain that goes on, and yet there seems to be a softening that happens and or scouring, depending upon what needs to be done. Sometimes it needs a little bit of scouring to pull out something that needs to be released. Other times there just needs to be more of a softening, as you said, Mary, the heart coming in with very soft, gentle energies and releasing that into the whole. And so healing occurs individually and collectively. I think you said it so well, through this heart energy, and allowing sometimes negative things that occur in our lives, in our communities, and without immediately judging it's so terrible that, yes, it's a horrific thing, but then perhaps it could have these effects that we might be surprised. How many people here have been praying and watching New Jersey, and again, where people think, like, where's New Jersey? What? But then Chris Christie, everybody knows the Jersey Shore. It's you're just on the world front, the world stage now, and so many people praying.
Mary, you mentioned something about native drumming. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, and it goes back to what Lorelynn was also talking about, that every individual is powerful. When we align ourselves with our highest purpose and our highest frequencies and vibrations, there's an awful lot that we can accomplish. So we don't have to feel helpless. We can stand as the master and observe and let love flow through us without judging. A friend of mine, Reverend Al Bennett, he's also from New Jersey, and he's of Native American ancestry, and he practices Native American drumming. And he told me the story of an event that he went to with a group of fellow drummers. And when he got there, he said he just felt that the land was dead, like there had been trauma in this area and pollution and abuse of the land and of people and animals, and it was just a dead, energetically dead atmosphere. And he said, we have to heal this land. And they did an evening of drumming there, and they brought back the vitality of the land. He felt the life force return to the land. And, he's a very intuitive man, and he can see the ancestral spirits and what's happening. But it was a small group of drummers, maybe 5 or 6. And together with their focused intention, and they're serving as transmitters to conduct and amplify the light that they brought through their drumming. And, the vibration of the drum goes deep into the earth, that they were able to bring that healing about in a place that was in desperate need of that.
I do know that Native American drumming is very powerful. I do know that. And so I love that story, Mary. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. I know someone who does some drumming, and I've been bugging her to set up a drum circle. And she doesn't really have time, but I'd love to be part of that, because the drumming really it touches the soul, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can feel
Absolutely.
it. Feel it vibrating in your soul. I love it.
There's a medicine woman named White Eagle, and her website is the whirlingrainbowfoundation.org, probably. If you Google Whirling Rainbow Foundation, you can find it. And she created a grandmother drum, which is 7 feet in diameter and inlaid with certain crystals. And she was spiritually given the instructions as to how to make the drum and what should be included in it. And she travels the world with it, doing healing ceremony with it.
Well, that's great. That's great. Thank you, Mary, for calling in and sharing that. It just adds another little piece, to our matrix. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
My pleasure. It's delightful listening in.
Thanks,
you, Mary.
Take care.
I mean, what Mary was saying is so important to understand in terms of our karmic heritage and how through our DNA line, people have been able to work more closely with the land and with each other and with community, and that we're relearning how to do that again, bringing in some of these ways of connecting and bringing in survival strength for ourselves. So great that she brought that forward.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yes, wonderful.
So at this time, we're going to take a small break, and I just want to remind everybody that they can chat with us at any time during the show. If you're on a PC or a Mac, just scroll down to the chat box, and the chat box is open already. We're chatting away. So if you have a Blog Talk Radio login, you can log in with your Facebook ID, or to listen by phone or call in. Our number is, again, 310-982-4166. And if you have a question or comment for us, press 1. Don't be shy. We're just going to go to a break, and then we'll see you back in a couple of minutes.
Good. Be back in 2 minutes. So welcome back to the Soul Matrix, everyone. We've been talking to Lorelynn Cardo about breaking tentacles of world karma and how we can raise our vibration to heal not only karma but areas where a lot of destruction has taken place. I just want to give some credit to the beautiful music that we listened to at the start of the show and the halftime, which is the Music of Light by Thaddeus. And before we continue, Lorelynn, please tell everybody where they might find you, and I think you're offering a special of some sorts. So please tell our listeners what that is.
Yes, you can contact me through my website, which is www.arisecounseling.com. And you can email me, Lorelynn, at arisecounseling.com, or I'm on Facebook. You can look me up under Arise Counseling or Lorelynn Mirage Cardo. You can find me that way, either way. And, yes, I'd love to be able to offer a special for someone who's listening to the radio show to be able to have one of my quantum counseling by Skype or by phone sessions for 1-hour sessions. That would be wonderful.
Oh, great, thank
fantastic.
you, so I have a question for you. It's kind of about weather karma. So there's been really severe changes in the weather patterns and concerns about future storms. We keep hearing, this is a storm that used to occur once every 10 years and now is occurring every year, and people have a lot of fear about that. So can we release our fears about changing weather patterns? And kind of the second part of this question is, how does that play into our cultural fears with poverty and race and religion?
Wow, that's a lot to look at, but it does go together, Wendy, I would say. In terms of the weather in particular, though, let's look at that for a moment. There's some very interesting information that has been coming out. One, I'd love everybody, if they haven't already known about Spencer Wells. He's a geneticist, and he does very deep DNA patterning. And he's followed us back to 200,000 years to a scientific Eve, and about 60,000 years ago, scientific Adam. He says absolutely it's in our DNA, and he can read it, that we have a species, we have been through severe weather changes, and in fact, even to the point where there was only 2,000 Homo sapiens on the planet at one point. I think he said around 50 or 60,000 years ago. We were like an endangered species. So we have survived and adapted and thrived throughout severe weather changes with none of the think of the Ice Age and the cavemen, with none of the trappings that we have now. So that's one piece. The other piece is that, yes, we are in the midst of a weather-changing pattern. It's part of the weather cycle. It's part of the global cooling cycle. They're getting deep ice flows that shows, again, this is a cyclical. We're in a live planet, and it does have its own cycles. We are part of it. I don't know so much as the fear as much as to just not be so afraid of it, to know that we can adapt to this, that when storms come, we can batten down. Perhaps people might want to consider where they are living, but also that it's a long cycle and that changes happen within it, and not to be so fearful of it. The same thing, like you said, poverty, race, all of the fears that going on right now in the different areas. But again, if you're looking at a survival strength, I mean, each one of us, we stand here because people have survived to pass down their survival strengths to us. And to be able to honor that back up through our ancestral lineage. Maybe you're looking at your own particular DNA lineage. You could be looking at a soul. We do stand with many different lineages. We have soul lineages. Some people have star lineages, angelic lineages. But if we're looking at just our DNA and we're looking up through our family history, we have been passed survival strengths and skills, and knowing how to adapt and thrive in a living, vibrant ecology that we have here on this beautiful jeweled planet. And so to start just feeling that our ancestors have survived, we are surviving, and we can pass this survival strengths and skills downward through our line as we go down generations, almost kind of throwing markers, rather than the fear that, oh, my God, everything is so different. It's not like it was when I was a child. I don't know if there's even going to be a world. Well, there's going to be a world. We are going to move forward. So rather than pass fear down, pass down some of our survival strengths.
Yeah, I like that.
I
That's
like
a great
that.
answer.
We have to move beyond the survival fear.
Yes, absolutely. And
And as people come together, in these tragedies and during these crazy weather patterns and severe weather patterns, we have to realize we're all in this together, aren't we? And it really shifts us beyond race and color and all of that. It really doesn't mean anything anymore, does it?
Well, it's the Mayan, in Lakesh, I am another yourself. So that's the wonderful piece, to know that you might be on the other side of the world, but yet I still can hear about what's happening for you. I can say prayers. I can send love and light to your situation and allow your free will choices to be made without getting involved in, now here's the karmic piece, wanting it to change in a particular manner. We're just sending love and light for the highest and greatest good for all. And that's always good to put, especially for those of us who are energy workers, to really stand in our integrity and our ethics and understand we have no right to put even a wonderful vision on somebody else if they don't want it. So to just say highest and greatest good, that we survive together. We are here on this beautiful. I think people have talked about it. Edgar Mitchell from the Institute of Noetic Sciences. I love hearing from the early astronauts and those pictures that came back of the Earth. My God, how magnificent this beautiful jeweled planet. We truly are on this magnificent world together, and
yes.
we are in the evolution of consciousness. One piece that I think is also good when we talk about poverty. To really consider. And I sometimes remind myself of this. Think of other civilizations, other cultures where, my goodness, to be able to have a sense of being cool in the midst of a heat wave, or to have heat when it's freezing and raining outside, or to be able to eat berries in winter. Some of the things that we take for granted. I remember there was no air conditioning in cars when I was a young girl, and cars were very hot, and people drove cars. My father drove a car in New York City in the midst of the summer, and he would come home so hot every day. And now, people without air conditioning in a car, you think, well, my goodness, here in America, why don't you have air conditioning? So we are actually living, many of us are living at the forefront of this wonderful, the prayers that have been set forth through generations of wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to eat food whenever we wanted to without having to forage for it. The prayers, we are living those prayers now, many of us. And so we and set markers that everyone on this planet will be able to live without the fear of hunger or poverty or homelessness, that everyone will be able. We can set markers for the whole planet. So how wonderful that not just small groups can have it, but now we want everyone on this planet to be able to live a wonderful life. That's an incredible social consciousness.
For me, like what you're also getting at, or what I'm seeing too, is some of the inherited patterns. Let's just say people who are born into poverty, and that's that karma. Okay, they're being born into poverty, or their karma is to struggle. We inherit patterns of energy and behavior and thoughts from our ancestry. These patterns are carried down from, one generation to another. And perhaps that's another reason why some people find it difficult to get out of certain situations like poverty, like struggling, because it's been sort of passed down through some inherited ancestry, some inherited pattern. Maybe it has something to do with how we were raised. So we refer to this as our ancestral karma. So just can you tell us perhaps how we can release that? Karmic ancestral patterns come in a variety of ways. They come in thoughts. Anger patterns can be handed down. Poverty patterns can be handed down. Money patterns, can be handed down. So many things. So how can we release that?
Well, of course, it starts with an individual person wanting, understanding that this is not the only way or the right way, or that I am not bound by this system. This is a system I have been taught. It's in my genes. It's in me, but I can step away from it. Now, in order to do that, there needs to be some deep healing and deep release. I do this work all the time as a counselor, but after about 20 years of counseling, I felt straight counseling really, like you said, anger patterns, violence, living in poverty, making bad choices, addiction problems, mental illness. There's so many different things that get passed down in family systems, and how do you step out of it? Counseling alone, to me, only goes so far. That's why I decided to bring in methods of energy healing, because when you bring some of the energy work in with the integration, which counseling can help you do, talk through it, see the details of your life. For me, the details are sacred in somebody's life. So you ride the story of a hero's journey rather than a victim of the story. We are the heroes in our own story, but how to really not just say it, but feel it and live it, because the hero's journey then brings you through to a sense of completion of that karmic pattern, and then you step forward into rebirth. Now, here's the interesting part. as you step forward and clear yourself of these patterns that really have held you and your family back, which can bring you to your knees and have you cry every day of your life. And believe me, I know those feelings. But as you heal yourself, now saints and sages have said this, and how magnificent that quantum is showing us this, you heal up and down your DNA line. So not only because time and space are unfolded. So as you heal yourself, you're healing your parents, your grandparents, your great-greats. You're sending healing up a number of generations, and you're sending healing down through your children and your children's children and your children's children. So magnificent. There's definitely a way through it. But it does take conscious effort and work, but there's a way through it. Absolutely, because I've lived it and I teach other people how to do it. I've done that for decades now.
Yes. I love that, going back to our roots and tracing back and releasing the attachment.
And there's so many ways to do it now. I mean, there's not just one way of doing it with energy work. There's so many wonderful methods and teachers and modalities. As we were talking about, drumming is one. There's Reiki, as we've been talking about a few of them. Karuna Reiki is sound and cellular, the language of light. It's a glyph and energy patterning. There's so many wonderful ways, energetic, integrated etheric healing and the spectrum energetics that I do through that. That's a chakra-based method, a soul-based method.
You know what, Lorelynn, just from what you're saying, it really ties into our series of karma, because you just show us that we have the power to break the tentacles and to change our karma, not just for us, but for future generations and for, past generations. And I love that we have that power. And it sounds like it can be done very gently. It's not something that's aggressive and crazy. We can all just start doing it by our thoughts. Whichever method we use.
And it can be, the methods that I use, not only can they be gentle, they're powerful, but they can also be fun. You can design fun activities, and Spirit comes in with some wonderful fun, and very light and loving, and just in a fun way be able to dance or release or sing it or dance it, or there's so many different ways that, so many creative ways, and creativity is something that really I feel not enough of us make use of that as a vehicle, as a package for moving forward in our lives. But there's
wanted to add one thing. I wanted to add something. You spoke about, releasing attachments, and I saw something really funny on Facebook. There's a picture of two monks talking, and one monk asked the other one, "Are we allowed to send email?" And the other monk says, "Yes, as long as there's no attachments."
No, that's good. Well, we're just about in the last 10 minutes of our show, and I have one more question for you, and then you have a little tip for us, and we have a little exercise to do, and then we have a meditation. So let me go ahead and ask you this final question on this tumultuous time in our history, as we've been talking about throughout the show. And where are we headed? From your perspective, Lorelynn, can you tell us where are we headed and what can we do to start improving the karma of our world?
Well, I personally feel we are headed into such a magnificent and joyful future reality here, which is absolutely a very possible doorway, let's say, to our future. And so, again, it might not be in my lifetime that I would see it. Perhaps it would be in my daughter's lifetime, where more of the light would be anchored onto this planet. But again, it comes down to each one of us individually holding that vision, almost like we said in the very beginning, Wendy, you and I talking about feeling the light and singing our song, holding our song through the sacred details of our life, and then connecting with others, and maybe not being afraid of not just buying into the negative messages that we really swim in a toxic sea of that break us down on so many levels. Instead, to really build more structures for ourselves to hold hope, to hold this vision. Mm-hmm. We will have...
And to take personal responsibility for ourselves and for our lives, right?
That's where it starts. It has to start, the peace has to start within you, because if you're not holding and vibrating peace and compassion and love, then how can you bring, no matter how wonderful your goal is, how can you bring peace, compassion, and love to this world, tolerance, justice, common sense, if you're not holding that yourself, you cannot.
Right. I love it. That's
Thanks,
perfect.
yes.
Place.
Thanks, Lorelynn.
Yes, that was brilliantly said. So before we continue with the tip of the day from Lorelynn, or just a little exercise that Lorelynn's going to do, Pauline, just tell us a little bit about next month's show on August the 7th.
Well, next month's show and shows thereafter are going to be concentrating on energy healing and the mind-body connection. We're really going to be talking about some miracles, about how to do this, how everyone can do it, everyone should do it, and we're going to have some very special guests. We have Dr. Pina Loguitis, who has been on Dr. Oz and Katie Couric. She's going to come on and talk to us. We have a couple of other guests who I'm not going to mention at the moment, but we have some great people coming on to talk to us about healing and the mind-body connection.
Very exciting. I can't wait to do that series. So, yes. Lorelynn, what tip can you offer our listeners right now to implement into their lives? Some kind of a visualization or exercise?
Okay, great. What I would love to do, I usually like to tell people to just start with your breath and to be able to really put a focus on 2 or 3 breaths as they come in. And just feel how effortlessly they come in. We don't have to force our breath or pull it in. It just comes in and fills us perfectly and naturally. And then when we breathe out, again, so joyful to breathe out, no forcing and releasing what we need and feel like we need to release. It just comes out so effortlessly. And then also consider the next in-breath, breathing in inspiration and wisdom and love. Highest and greatest levels, the highest octaves of love that come to us. And when we breathe out again the next time, breathe out our wisdom and our love, our experience, our compassion into this world, and breathe that out into the world. And then follow the next breath down your body and down your feet as if you have roots, and always wonderful to go into the earth so you can feel connected and safe and strong, grounded into Gaia, into our wonderful biology from our base. And then breathe in from the earth and feel this breath come up with the earth energies all the way up and out the top of our head like this beautiful rainbow waterfall of light. And then being able to open the top of your head and feel yourself rising. Feel this central core of energy that just rises from above your head to below your feet. And perhaps if you can visualize or actually raise your hands up above your head as high as they can go, and wiggle your fingers a little bit, and then bring them out slowly to both sides of your body, your right hand out as far as it can go, your left hand out as far as it can go, wiggling them, and then down. With this sense of the expanded sense of who you are. Perhaps you're opening up your angel wings or your fairy wings. Perhaps you're just feeling and sending out more within your energetic package. And feeling connected to the earth and having this expansive sense of ourselves. Just visualize yourself within this crystalline grid around the earth with other light workers who are here, and beings of love and light and compassion, those in the highest and greatest who've worked for eons here. You can work with Jesus and Mary and the Magdalene Tower of Strength, Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion, Buddha and the Bodhisattvas through the ages, ascended masters and beings of love and light, Avalokiteshvara, the sound that illumines the world. These magnificent beings, and here we are taking our place to do this light work and to set visions of hope and love and connection, prosperity, abundance, love for all, care, whatever comes to your mind that you would like to send love and light to, and the highest and greatest good for all on our destiny path.
That's so nice.
Thank you.
That was nice. I'm feeling very light and free. And how about you ladies?
Definitely, me too.
Great.
Thank you, Lorelynn.
Thank you for that exercise.
Thank you. It's great to always visit that grid if you're able to do that and do light work with the other light workers, but still remember to ground yourself in your biology.
It was perfect. So thank you, Lorelynn. That was really great, and thank you for coming on our show. We loved having you on.
Thanks for having me. I loved being with you two women. You're just wonderful.
Thank you, love.
Oh,
so
thank you. We love you.
So let's get ready to relax and go into a short meditation with Pauline.
Yes, we'll do a brief meditation. It's nice to know we can heal our karma, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
It's nice to know we can. Okay, so let's just take a couple of deep breaths. So just close your eyes and take a deep breath in and out. We've been doing a lot of talking and there's a lot of processing, and it's time to let go. I want you to come down into your heart center. Really come sink down into your beautiful green heart center. And there, you might imagine a bowl or a box, and in it is all your karma, your good karma, your negative karma. And out of that box come the tentacles, all the tentacles of karma. And imagine all those tentacles of karma being connected to you. And the tentacles that you no longer wish to be attached to. And the pieces and the ancestral karma that you no longer wish to have, that you no longer need because it doesn't serve you. Imagine yourself using a scissor, a golden scissor of light, and cut that karma, cut that tentacle. Letting go of people, situations, all karmic energy that no longer serves you. Cut as many tentacles as you need to. And send each tentacle into the light with love and forgiveness and compassion. And coming back now, feeling freer, knowing that you can heal your karma and be free.
Thank you, everybody, for a great show. Have a good night.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Remember, the light of your soul illuminates the world with love.